So, okay, great. So I'm going to introduce our second guest, who is Dr. Martin Egbolu. I'm not going to say that, but Dr. Martin is the author of the collection of short stories. He has several stories to his name. One of the things I really want to highlight about his bio is that he's the co-founder and director of Writers Project of Ghana. I want to say Nigeria. If some people may probably have heard of that, the Community Writers Project of Ghana, and then director of Pedia Literacy Festival. It's a very well attended literacy festival that happens every year in Accra. He also hosts the radio show Writers Project on City FM. And if you recall, for those of us here, during last year, Anna was interviewed by Dr. Martin on City FM for the show. So he's the commissioning editor for the anthology Resilience, a collection, and also co-edited the anthology of short series The Sea Has Drowned the Fish, as well as the anthologies of poetry Look Where You Have Gone to Sit, and According to Sources. So he has many books to his name. Welcome, Dr. Martins. We're happy to have you here, Dr. Martins.
I think that
what did you say?
I'm saying that let's call me Martin, and that would be fantastic.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Martin. So we're going to dive into the discussion. I'm just going to go back to the main screen so that we have that as a background. Yeah. All right. So welcome everyone to our Ignite Talk. Today, again, like I said before, is World Book Day, which happens on the first Thursday in March of every year. So it's a day to celebrate books, reading, publishing, everything related to it. So we're going to start with Dr. Martins, and I'll start by asking, what's been your journey I'm particularly interested in your journey as the director of Pedia Festival and the Writers Community of Ghana. By being the director, I assume that it started with you, and what's been the journey so far up until now?
The
audio, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Is it better?
Dr. Martin, we can hear you.
Hello.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's much better.
You can hear me.
No, it's still in and out.
That it stabilizes. So please let me know what it is. It okay now, please?
Oh, can we all hear?
So I was saying that
I can't.
He's cutting in and out. Martin, you might have to cut your video. I find that help.
Let me cut the video.
Yeah.
And then,
see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it better now?
It is better now.
It's better now.
Okay, fantastic. So yes, I was just saying that I'd like to start with the Writers Project of Ghana, and that is an organization that a colleague who now died, unfortunately, and myself started. He was American, and he was visiting Ghana at that point, and one thing led to another. We decided that we should try and form a sort of collective, and that's how come we put together what eventually became the Writers Project of Ghana. At its core, what we are trying to do with it is to try and open up space for writers and to connect with their readers. And so since 2009, we've been organizing programs, and so we feel that the Writers Project of Ghana may be more known through the programs that we organize. And so we have the radio show, as you've mentioned, which has been running since 2009. We have several reading series. We've been running a very successful public reading series yearly since 2009 as well. Since 2010, this has been at the Great Institute it, and we've hosted probably in excess of 80 African and Ghanaian writers for monthly readings. And then we also started in 2017, along with our partners, the Goethe Institute, the festival Peja. And so Peja more or less is like another of the programs that Writers Project organizes. And so, yes, in essence, that's what Writers Project does. We also try to publish anthologies. And so we have 5 published anthologies of mainly Ghanaian writing. And then we also run some workshops, yearly workshops. One of them is quite consistent. It's called the Mo Isa Writing Workshops. And it runs for about 6 weeks every year. And we will be doing the 6th edition this year. So in summary, that is about the Writers Project. I tried to make it short.
Okay, because I know that even the Pager Festival even has guests coming from Nigeria as well when it happens every year. So I know it's a very well attended festival. Okay, thank you, Martin. Amma, so I know the story of Aqua Books, but for the benefit of everybody here, I think it's a very interesting story. Could you just briefly summarize your journey with starting Aqua Books?
Thank you. Hi. So, like I said, my mother was a children's book writer. My father was a mathematician, and we grew up with books, loving books. My mother taught me to read. We had loads of books in our house, but how most of the books in our house were got from the library. We used to go to libraries, my sisters and I have 2 sisters, and we'll go to the library. We're allowed to borrow 8 books each. So we'll stagger home with 24 books, read the books, and then turn them around in another 2 weeks. We'll go back and get another 24. So I developed a love of reading very early, but I didn't have to pay or buy the books when I developed that love of reading. So my mother, who cultivated that love and would speak to us, always discuss what books we'd read and so on, started losing her sight later, much later. By that time, I'd become an IT professional, and I was really passionate. For me, technology is always about how can we improve people's lives. So when my mom started losing her sight and couldn't read, audiobooks became her go-to thing for reading. She said she was too old to learn Braille. You need to have sensitive fingertips to read Braille successfully. She thought she couldn't do that. So anyway, audiobooks became her life. We've been listening to audiobooks from the days when it was books on cassette tape, and then it went to DVDs, and then mommy had an iPod, and now everything is digital streaming. And so we've moved with the technology, and we have access to books with an Alexa speaker. But along that journey, we found out that most of the books she was listening to were European, American, and African books were not a part of it. So she'd want a classic African writers that she'd read. She couldn't find it, or I'd be talking to her about a new author, and she couldn't have access to it. So that's what made me think, well, why are African publishers out of this audiobook scene? We have wonderful stories to tell. We have wonderful voices. We come from an oral tradition, and the technology is available. So I was like, let me put all those things together and started the platform well, first of all, it was actually more about just recording books and making them accessible. But then later on, it became, when we record the books, how can we make them affordable and accessible? Where will we put them so Africans can buy them, Ghanaians and other people on the continent? So then we became a platform as well. So we are both publishers, we create audiobooks, and we're also a content platform to host and to serve the audiobooks through the internet, or we also have a mobile app, both for Apple, iOS, and Android. So that's me in a nutshell.
So is it subscription based or do you have to purchase?
At the moment, it's pay per title. So every title, you can listen to a sample before you play, but you have to buy it. We are moving on. We are actually beta testing a new platform, which will be subscription based, because our big thing is really about affordability. Like I said, I developed a reading culture when I didn't have to pay or buy books, which was really helpful. So by the time I was in love with books and I could afford to buy one, I'd already had the habit. So affordability is a big thing. So even when we started our platform, and it's paper title, we realized that, and I guess we'll talk about it a little bit later, young people today are used to getting content on platforms where they can subscribe and they can have almost like an all-you-can-eat model. And so buying a title one by one was not really exciting. And so we thought, okay, let's broaden it a little bit more. We're going to have a tiered credit system, starting from 1 credit up to 4 credits. You can buy 1 book a month up to 4 books a month at a very affordable price. That platform we are hoping to launch at the end of April. And so we're looking forward to doing that.
Okay, all right, exciting. Okay, so we're going to be talking a lot about technology today. So first, Martin, digital books versus print books. So I know you're in a community with lots of writers, and I'm guessing that you probably have most of the anthologies on platforms, on ebook platforms. So what are the trends? Is there a decline in print books? Um, should we jump on this trend as EduSpots and sports we have books in our sports already on the shelves. Should we also be keying into this trend of the trend of digital books, becoming more accessible?
Yeah, I think that, well, from a personal perspective, the thing with digital books and what makes them, I think, important is accessibility and the fact that you can keep large numbers of books in storage, books that are totally out of print and would have been easy of getting these books if they hadn't been digitized. And so that is for me, I believe, the strongest point for the digital book as a reading format, not as a reading format, because I think that's a totally different story. Having said that, though, I think the trends would agree. The printed copy is not on its way out. I think that some years ago it was thought that the printed book was on its way out and would be upstaged by the digital format. But more and more books are being printed, and I think that once we agree, and from a personal perspective, that you can get a book on an e-book, for example, it doesn't really replace a hard copy. And I find is that I'll go ahead later on, and once a hard copy becomes accessible, I buy it, even if I've read it as an e-book. I also guess that's a personal trait of mine because I like to see books, and I like that they are looking at me as well. But I think that this is something that is going to exist side by side for a long time to come. I don't think that the books are on their way out, and neither do I think that they will be overwhelmed by ebooks. I feel that both are complementary and they really just enhance the reading experience. When it comes to audiobooks, I think it's a digital format essentially nowadays. But I think a ball game. I personally don't subscribe to audiobooks because I can't pay attention to um, what I'm hearing for extended periods of time, and I also need pretty fast. But I can see that it is now serving more than a niche because even I can are now being translated to audio that have more traction with the this. But once again, I think that is a format which has come to stay, and I believe that it will join other formats that we are very familiar with, enhancing how we interact with.
I like the word you use, complementary. And I've seen, because I also work in the book space as well, and I've seen them complement each other very nicely. So the print books and the digital books. The good thing about digital books is the accessibility. Um, but also there's a place for, especially for young children, having the books, being able to flip through it, and see how books work in real life. So Amma, for audiobooks, have you had to, can you hear me please?
I can.
Okay. So audiobooks and schools. Do you have schools who use your audiobooks? I just want to know, like, how do they how what's the way that they use it in schools? Do they play it in classrooms? Do they
Well,
what's been your experience with that?
that's a great question. And then in Ghana, we actually have we have difficulties and challenges with digital in the classroom for teaching and learning outside a computer, a computer science class. We haven't, there's no, apart from some of the private schools where technology is integrated, maybe even into the blackboard, the whiteboard, or the digital board in the classroom where videos can be streamed, audio can be played, the whiteboard can be touched and played around with. In our, in our average public school in Ghana, we don't even have that facility. So computers and learning about or using technology is just restricted to being in a computer class, which I think is a big, um, it's a sad, it's a big mistake, and it's a lost opportunity because as you rightly said, integrating audiobook technology is really low level, very simple. All you need is a speaker and a place where you can stream the story from. You can put a speaker down in the classroom, the whole class can listen to the story and interact. And I've been happy, been lucky to have a couple of sessions on previous World Book Days at some primary schools where we did that, played stories, with music, and the children were dancing around the speaker, and it was a lot of fun. But the average school doesn't do that. So we don't integrate technology into basic things like reading, definitely not for reading. And so that opportunity is not there yet. I have our audiobooks in a few schools. My daughter goes to GIS, and so the actual school already actually had an audiobook subscription. And so it was much easier to get into a school that was already embracing technology. So sadly in Ghana, no, in many, many other parts of the world where technology is sort of just part of everyday classroom, every teacher from history to geography to a class teacher in primary school would be using technology. We don't have that. I've been talking to teachers about how can you use just your phone and play an audiobook in the classroom. But because we have rules and regulations about, mobile devices in schools, in classes, we have a way to go. So the opportunities are there. They're not being really used in the Ghanaian classroom yet. And I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. Um, it's interesting you talk, I mean, Martin spoke about physical versus digital.
Great.
For me, in Ghana, a place like Ghana where books are just so expensive, print books are just so expensive, much as I love them, I just think that if we want to have people reading widely, we more than anybody else need to embrace digital. Nothing about the publishing industry. We don't use materials that are produced here, the inks, the paper, and so on. So it's an expensive business. Africa is a huge continent by mass, sending books from South Africa to Ghana or from Cameroon to Zimbabwe. It just adds another layer of expense. Even in terms of a breadth of knowledge, African writing, who's writing what, in what genre, it's very difficult to get those answers when you're restricted to a physical book environment. So I really think that there's a lot to be done in embracing what we have and using that. I mean, you asked, it was interesting, how did I get to know about EduSpots? Well, I got to know about EduSpots because I was following the journal of those 13,
Wonderful.
travelers decided to
Yeah.
Wanderlust, exactly, who decided to go from Accra to London by road. And I love reading journals. Journals is one form of book that I really like. And so it was just really exciting to read their journey day by day, where they were, what they were doing, what was happening. And that's what got me to learn about EduSpots, because I realized at the end that we were trying to fundraise for your work. But so digital, but Facebook, I think it was Facebook or somebody dropped it in a WhatsApp group, and that's when I started following it. And so just finding discoverability about books. And that wasn't a book, it was a journal and it was an
Yes.
account, but it was just fun. And I learned a lot from it. And I think reading has moved beyond just what you can find in the pages of a book to these different types of experiences, where you can follow a journey, there can be video in it, there can be sound archives, there can be, and I just I'm just, maybe because I'm a technology person, I'm just happy to embrace all that. And I feel like we need to have our young people and our children being exposed to more of that. So audiobooks in the classrooms, not yet. We're working and fighting to get them in there. And then also to give teachers an idea of what to do with them. Because yes, we have an audiobook catalog now, but how can we use it in the classroom? And we're trying to think about how to do some workshops for teacher for audio literacy.
Okay. Awesome. So I'll just follow up, just a follow-up question to that. So I use an audiobook service where there's so for early years learners. So we have early years learners in EduSpots, and one feature I know that really helps is the read along feature. So they're not reading themselves yet, but they can read along with the story. So I just want to know, like, is that included? First question, and then second one is for children who struggle with have reading difficulties. So for instance, dyslexia, for instance, is there like text to speech or something, those kinds of aids in the Apple Books platform? Is it going to be incorporated so that children living with disability of some sort or who are early years learners are able to use the audiobooks to be able to, listen to stories or get
Yeah,
into the world of stories?
that's such an important question. At the moment, I must say no. We just have standard audio. Like for younger children, we do often incorporate music. So we incorporate music in addition to the speaker's voice. That can make it fun and interesting with special sound effects. We don't have text to speech or anything because we're purely audio platform. What we were thinking of doing was adding a feature where, because we are looking at where can we take voice, where we can have the children listen to the story and then afterwards record the story and see how well they can recollect the story and retell the story. But it would be as sort of interactive audio feature. We do plan in our new platform to have ebooks because a lot of parents, when they hear the audio, they do want to find the book. And we always point them to where can you find the print book or the ebook. And I think children, everybody should have a book in whatever format suits them most. Some people like to hear audio, some people want to read print, some want to do both, as we're talking about, seeing
Yeah.
the text highlighted as they read. We are going to incorporate ebooks and then the possibility of reading aloud the book to the child, where they would read the child after listening to the book, then they kind of more or less parrot it and read aloud. And we find that really important because a lot of children who are learning to read in a language is not their native language can often read in a very robotic and wooden way. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yes. Yes.
In Ghana, a lot of times when you hear children reading in church or something, it's almost like they're reading like robots. They're reading without understanding. And it's just because they were taught to recite. So they're not really reading with, understanding. However, listening to an audiobook can help you do that, understand the text properly, because the reader, the narrator, is bringing in the expressions, where if it's funny, the humor, the laughter, and then they can get into the story a bit more. So when they are learning to read aloud, they're learning to read aloud with expression and understanding. So we're looking at how can we incorporate that feature and help it to become a teaching, an educational spot. We were just trying to bring books alive and make them as accessible as possible. And these sort of educational outcome features are being incorporated gradually and.
All right. Martin, um, I'm going to go back to you to talk about Literacy Festival. I'm very, PJ is very fascinating for me. Now, what's been like the impact of such a big festival on books and reading and the excitement? You know, should we be creating more literacy festivals in EduSpots so we get the children and the communities generally excited about, re- reading?
So I think one of the biggest impacts, as I can see, for the festival picture is actually bringing writers together. So we find out that the largest impact, the far-reaching impact, has come because writers are talking to other writers and are also getting in touch with publishers. So we've seen that book things have been signed at Pija, writing groups have been formed from Pija, and some of these groups have gone on to apply for things, as groups, and the nexus was at Pija. It's because people came and met each other. We found that the writers are able to get back in touch with each other for many, many years. And so that sort of interaction, I think, is one of the key things that that bring. But then, of course, there is the interaction between the writers and also the public. And so we find out that people get to know about writers that they haven't heard before. And then also, which writers read, but we have not met. But on aspect of does it help to, um, it does. And a lot of the time, especially for the children, I found that there is continuous excitement throughout the year. For children who are always asking us, but they recognize are there at the festival for books. Hello. Children, a lot of children feel it's very good.
Dr. Martin, your audio is going in and out.
I'm sorry. And books belong in school, and then that's it. You go to school where there are books, and then after that, books are not part of your life any longer. Because many families do not have a stock of books in the house that always apples after can library or system and so. And I think things like these are children active organizing such programs in Nigeria and beyond. I feel that it's a really good step and it's action.
Martin, sorry, can you try turning off your video? And I think that will help. Okay.
Right. I don't know how much you know, but I will be talking too much. So I was just saying that if EduSpots is interested in organizing things like literary festivals in Nigeria and other countries, I feel that it's extremely important because our experience is that once you have an event that is just about books, the interaction leaves a long-lasting impression on anyone who attends. So it's not about music, it's not about personalities per se, but it's just about books. It's I think that it's really an important difference in programming. And so for Pija, we agree that this is one thing that is a benefit. And I would encourage everybody to also go down that route because we need many more of these things. And I would be happy to see several festivals running through the year in Accra and everywhere else, because the population is large and somehow books have to percolate to the population. I hope my audio was a little better after I turned off the video.
Yeah. It's much better than.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So that's my answer.
Okay. Okay, and then for the writers community, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we do have our own books and EduSpots books. So we have a collection of picture books, in case you want them to be featured on Pagia or in any of your communities. We have picture books in EduSpots as well, just in case anyone is, I guess they're not aware. They're called the Kwame's Adventure Series, and they are set in different communities that where our sports are present in. Lovely picture books. Okay, so we're going to talk about AI now and the effects of AI on writing and books generally. So, should we bother? I mean, if you can go to ChatGPT and find the answers to everything you want to, or that comes to your mind, should we bother with literacy and promoting reading and pushing reading and writing new books and trying to grow the publishing industry, or should we just, I mean, should we be afraid, or should we what should be like our position? I'll start with Amma first, and then Dr. And Martin can add to it.
Yeah, AI, the big demon or genie or whatever. I don't know. Everybody feels threatened or overwhelmed by it. I remember, when ChatGPT, started coming out, and you could realize that, ooh, you could let the computer generate for you. I was totally fascinated. Like I said, I'm fascinated by technology, but I thought, I mean, for me, it's an opportunity to change how or reimagine our relationship to writing. I know, my daughter she grew to love books because, we had books at home and she loves reading. But, the traditional way when we were growing up in school, you have to write an essay. Everybody kind of parrots the same style way of writing an essay. Um, I think that, you know, we have an opportunity with ChatGPT to just be more creative and imaginative about the way we write. Because even if you ask a computer to generate some ideas for you, random ideas, and it comes up with a piece, now you, the writer, have an opportunity to look at that piece, be inspired by it, learn from it, and then just chart your own path. Whereas when in the past, when you're just sitting down sometimes on your own and trying to come up with ideas, outlines and so on and so forth, you just don't have anything to help trigger your creative process. So I feel that it's fascinating and we can embrace it. I don't think that it's going to, I think it can enhance the writing process and it can
Yeah.
definitely improve people's writing. So I would say let's be open to it and see what teachers, writers, students, how they can use it. And I think teachers now they know that children can cheat in inverted commas cheat and have computers write their papers for them. I think teachers now can also be a bit more creative about how they handle their assignment. You will not just give it an assignment, just you know write. They can be a bit more creative about how they give the students assignments that will force them to think. I think um, AI can really help in just helping in terms of even discovering books that appeal to you as a person, what you like, what genres what authors what authors you don't know. I think there's a big space there for discoverability. I in audio, there's been all sorts of interesting um, enhancements for listening to audio. So Storytel, which is a Swedish company, for example, in Storytel, you can be listening to a book, and if you don't like the voice of the narrator, in traditional audiobook, there's nothing much you can do. So a woman is narrating the book, you don't like her voice, you don't have the choice. You have to listen
Yeah.
to it. But Storytel has this new feature now where you can switch. Okay, so you're listening to a book and you suddenly want to hear it in a male voice. You want to hear it in a grandmother's voice. You want to hear it in a Scottish accent. You want to hear it in a, Nigerian accent. You can switch and have a new narrator read to you, which may be in a way that appeals to you more. And I found that totally fascinating. I said, yeah, I mean, imagine if you're Nigerian, you want to hear a Nigerian voiced audiobook, you can switch and have the text read by a Nigerian or Ghanaian or Kenyan or South Africa, because all our accents are very different. And then I thought about how
Mm.
we are even going further and doing uh, simultaneous translation. So I can imagine you're reading a book in English and now you want to hear the book in Hausa or Ga or Yoruba or Kiswahili or something. Imagine being able to just switch from one language to another with kind of look for reading experience. All these possibilities and potentials are there with AI. So for me, it's like, yeah, I'm going to try and find out how we can use them to enhance the reading experience. So I'm very excited about the opportunity. I definitely want to embrace them. We are looking at how we can already get an African voice or Ghanaian voice to narrate the audiobooks instead of having being limited to one narrator's voice. So this can be done really quickly and rapidly using AI. So for me, there are opportunities there.
Awesome. Dr. Martin, from directing a writers community, I know for a lot of writers, AI is like the demon in the room. I mean, if you can generate content from AI, why do we need to sit down and write a whole book? In our sports, we also do literacy, so writing, reading, different things like that. But I'm thinking now that AI is generating stories for any random person, do we need to sit down with stories till we perfect it, or what can we still encourage young people to still be interested in the craft of writing when there is AI as that big demon in the room?
So like,
Hey, I can't hear you. Yes, can we hear Dr. Can we hear Martin, please?
Yeah, okay. So I do my own business and I actually saw that it's moving on the consoles. Right, it was very interesting so that oh yeah, offers very interesting descriptive because I think it's the idea is to tell the story. And I found that if I can actually tell a certain kind of story, like, well, because I mean, in certain types of genres, the arc of the story is kind of mechanistic, almost ways to change certain things. And I think that's sort of the right AI I mean, I would say well, I mean, but I also feel that it should be easy enough for somebody who has read same like two books when a story is not written by humans. That's what I want to the differences I want to minimize. But right, I was always the question of unless publishers are the ones who use AI to generate text. Right now, uses AI as an assist. People uses AI as an assist. That's a right now. It's reason so the AI. I those channels. So right, And it comes back to a challenge. So yeah, this is a book that has become a bestseller. While even the influence of the software community is really that book and around the so I think that that is something which answers are not yet being answered for not to reach that sort of level. I generally feel that AI is already a tool that writers are using from something as simple as checking or more enhanced grammar correction, and people are using it as a tool. But I don't think that the core of storytelling and programming should be managed by technology. So you are not likely to I empathy, the level that a human being can with the machine. And this is something which I feel strongly. I mean, down the line, create a system of laws and laws of people. But the question will be that AI from human intelligence to the extent that I'm also created, and I think it's an outstanding question in computer science generally. But I would say that writers almost to be terrified by AI insofar as they are writing stories, insofar as they are telling stories. If it was some sort of mechanistic output, then maybe I can just test them and then the publishers would be out here because we don't have to pay AI royalties.
Oh, okay. I struggle to hear. Thank you, Martin. Amma, we're rounding off, but I just want to, I'm thinking social entrepreneurship, and I'm thinking, um, let's say our volunteers who are good with local languages, who want to um, um, translate books or record books in local Ghanaian languages. Are there opportunities like that?
Absolutely. Actually, I'm really excited to hear you say that because we want to be able to, like I said, I would love to be able to have that ability to flip, from one language to another, especially for those who are not, English is not our native language, is it? So just the ability to be reading a book, your quantity read, want to hear it in your own language. I think that would be wonderful. So yes, I would love to work with anybody who be excited about. We have a project now where we're trying to record 33 hours of audio in of stories, audio stories. So the text has to be there in various in English and various local languages as well. So yeah, if you have narrators and volunteers, I'd be happy to talk to them. I really think that stories and storytelling, are not shouldn't be restricted to one format only these days. Stories can take many shapes these days. They can be print, audio, ebooks, film, interactive books. I've seen all these fascinating interactive books. Augmented reality. You can put on a special pair of glasses and see books and figures in, 3 dimension. You can interact with the story and tell the story the way where you want the story to go. I think all these exciting elements of storytelling we should be able to use and embracing our local languages. So if you have volunteers, I'd be very happy to work with you for recording uh, stories in our local languages. Unfortunately, there isn't much. Again, we tend to write in English. Most of the big children's writers in Ghana and on the continent are writing in either English or French. So it would be great to see more picture books in our local languages or have them translated and then read. So yes, absolutely. If you have, we would love to work with you and volunteers to have that. I know
Awesome.
Afram Publications has done
Yes,
quite
I
a
know
few
them.
picture books in both English and other languages. I know Avram does that, and not many of the other publishers.
Okay. Awesome. So one last question for Dr. Marsman before we throw it open for questions, if there are any. So for the Writers Project, I'm thinking you have a lot of writers in your network. And one thing that we're trying to push in EduSpots is to get children to read books that reflect their stories, reflect their environments, things that they can relate with. And I'm thinking what possible collaborations between writers or the Writers Project as a community and EduSpots. We're always doing book drives because we want to fill our bookshelves with books by African authors. Dr. Martin, or Martin, sorry, I keep calling you Dr. Martin. Are there any possible collaborations with this community of, amazing writers who our students really, really want to read?
Yeah, I mean, I am fascinated with the time that you have mentioned that I see that we need collaborating at least not to it's um something that I mentioned in the I will not look that you have when they know that it was and the answer of course is yes, because one to one choice is no people so different things that are happening. So something which for sure like explore I want going up and go by this thing just something from this was I as a yeah actually below it is within see that's the sense of how yeah jumping to the but that we also are interested in thinking since that we don't have a published I also want to check on one that has a little so that they are quite a lot of progressive rights. It's just that I'm sure that there's something and so in terms of making writings, things that are of a standard as we have so I think that it's also something that we don't keep because it's not sure I already have those that always point this is this is the fact that is not a lot. It's not understand this strong additional use how there's a reason having now the instrument and have the just sharing into their friends. These are good. It's something that I'm also interested in making connection with so like I recommend it. I also want to make it please.
Thank you, Martin. Do we have any questions? You can put your questions in the chat. We actually at the top of the hour. But if you have any questions just before we round up, you can quickly put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask while I go on to, yeah, Dr. Martin, your audio was not really. While I go on to make a short announcement, if you stop me from making the announcement so that I can take your question before we. Uh, okay, so as I just quickly mentioned, we currently have a book drive that is running, and we're trying to collect 3,000 books for our spots. So like I mentioned earlier when I did the introduction for EduSpots, I said that we have 50 spots across Ghana and Kenya, and we're trying to collect 3,000 books for the spots. So anyone, we welcome everyone here to please support our drive. And there's several ways you can support. You can either donate your new or gently used books if you have. If you don't have, you can purchase book vouchers from our partner bookstores. So we have Book Nook Store and Booksy. Those are the two bookstores who already have vouchers for that you can purchase, and it will be in favor of EduSpots. Or you can make a financial donation as well. I'm going to send to our guests. I'm going to send a pack that has most of this information. So if you want to share with your community, please, you are welcome to do so. You can make a financial donation via the I Just Giving link or mobile money, or you can spread the word. Simply spread the word to your community to tell them that we're trying to raise books or to collect books for our sports. And this drive will run all through March till the end of March. So there's still time. But please, as much as possible, try and help us spread the word to your community. Um, one contact can make a huge difference. Do we have any questions?
Oh, I just want to say, Farida, that I
If we
actually
don't
have,
have any questions, I'm very happy.
I actually
Okay, go
have,
ahead, Amma.
yeah, no, I was going to say I have a box of books. I was clearing out my daughter's shelf. She's 17 now. So I have a box of books, really like books suitable for ages 8 to 11, 12. Is that what age group are you looking for?
That's a good age range. That's part of it.
Okay. Okay, so I have a box of books I was looking for to give away to there are some
Awesome.
children where I live and I gave them some, but I have a lot of lovely books. So I'll be happy to donate
We'll
a
be in
book.
touch, definitely.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Amma.
Hmm.
Thank you. So exciting. Thank you, everyone, for joining. The recording will go up on YouTube and the link will be shared with our guests and also our volunteers and staff members. So look out for it. Thank you so much for joining and happy World Book Day once again.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you for
Aida.
us. Thank you for inviting.
Everybody.
All right.
Pleasure. Hmm.
All right. Bye bye.
Okay then. Thank you, Farida and Eddie. Bye bye.